I will take away your beauty, so that no rich man will ever think you are worthy of marriage. These were the words whispered by Lashid's stepmother on the night before the richest trader in Ibadan came to ask for her hand. But what they did not know was that beauty cannot be stolen, only revealed. And by the time the sun rose on her wedding day, the whole village would learn a lesson written in shame and regret. Stay with me till the end. Before we continue with what happened next, if you are finding this story interesting, consider subscribing. We post new African stories every week, and your support helps us keep bringing you these deeply interesting stories. Now, back to the story. Fazhead was 20 years old, but she carried herself like someone much older, someone who had learned too early that silence could protect you when kindness could not. She was the last daughter of Baba Day, a respected palm wine tapper in the ancient city of Ibadan. Her father was known throughout 5 villages for his skill. He could climb the tallest palm tree before dawn and return with gourds full of the sweetest wine before the market bell rang. But Adi had made one mistake in his life. He married 2 wives. The first wife had given him 3 daughters, Kiki, Bimp, and Simisola. The second wife, Fashid's mother Aduni, died while bringing Fazhead into the world. The birth had been difficult, and by the time the herbalist arrived, Aduni had already crossed to the land of the ancestors. From that day on, Fashid grew up under the roof of Yakik, who treated her not like a daughter, but like a reminder of the woman who had once shared her husband's love. Yakik's voice cut through the morning air like a machete through sugarcane. Have you fetched water from the stream? Yes, Ayumi. Fazhead answered softly, using the Yoruba word of respect for my mother, even though the word tasted bitter on her tongue. And swept the compound? Yes, Ayumi. And prepared the pepper soup for your father? It is cooking now, Ayumi. Yakik clicked her tongue in that special way that meant nothing Fazhead did would ever be enough. Yet you stand here doing nothing like a woman waiting for her husband to return from war. Fazhead lowered her eyes. She had learned long ago that defending yourself only made things worse. Her stepsisters were no kinder. Kiki, the oldest, was 25 and still unmarried, a fact that burned inside her like hot coals. Bimp was 23 and had been betrothed twice, but both men had changed their minds for reasons no one spoke about openly. Simisa, the youngest of the 3 at 21, was quieter than her sisters. But her silence was not kindness. It was the silence of someone who watched evil happen and did nothing to stop it. To the outside world, Fazhead looked blessed by the Orishes themselves. She was beautiful, not in a sharp, attention-seeking way, but in a gentle way that made even old women stop and smile when she passed. Her skin was smooth like shea butter, her eyes were bright with intelligence, and the way she moved carried a grace that seemed to come from somewhere beyond this world. Village elders praised her. Adimi, your daughter will bring honor to your name, they would say. But inside her father's compound, she was called Alapadam, the worthless one. That evening, Baba Day returned from the palm groves and found Fazhead grinding pepper behind the kitchen. He sat heavily on his carved wooden stool, his face lined with tiredness. Fashi, he called, using the gentle words, my child. She came at once, kneeling with proper respect. Welcome home, Babami. He looked at her with the kind of sadness only a father carries when he knows his child is suffering but feels powerless to fully stop it. Come and sit beside me, he said gently. Fazhead sat on the ground near his feet, as was proper. Adi reached into his cloth bag and pulled out a piece of roasted corn.
Eat, he said.
You work too hard.
Thank you, Baba.
Her voice was barely above a whisper. As she ate, Adi spoke carefully. You are a woman now, Fazhadi. Soon a good man will come for you, and you will have your own home, a place where you are respected. Fashid's chest tightened. Baba, I am content here. Adi shook his head. You should not have to lie to your father. He placed his rough hand on her head. I see what they do. I hear how they speak to you when they think I cannot hear. One day, this will change. From the doorway of the main house, Yakik watched them with cold calculation. Beside her, Kiki and Bimp exchanged looks that spoke louder than words. They hated the bond between Adi and Fazhead because it reminded them of what they could never have, his wholehearted love. And that night, as Foz had finally rested her tired body on her thin sleeping mat, they began to plan how to make sure she would never escape their grip. 3 market weeks later, everything changed. Fashade was returning from the stream, a clay pot balanced perfectly on her head, when she met a man she had never seen before. He stood near the narrow path that led to her father's compound, dressed in an indigo agbada with patterns that spoke of wealth and status. He was tall, and his posture was confident but not proud. When he saw Fozhead coming, he stepped aside respectfully. "Good morning, sister," he greeted in Yoruba. Fozhead paused for a moment. The man's eyes studied her face with the kind of attention that made her uncomfortable. Not with lust, but with the careful look of someone making an important decision. "Forgive my boldness," he said, "but I must know your name." Foz had tightened her hold on the pot. "I am Fozhead, daughter of Adi." The man's expression changed, as if the name confirmed something he had already guessed. "Adi the palm wine tapper?" "Yes, sir." He nodded slowly. "My name is Aduni. I am the son of Chief Adino of Lagos. I have come to Ibadan for business," but he paused. "I believe I was brought here for a different reason." Foz had felt her heartbeat grow faster. She knew where the conversation was leading, and it frightened her. "I must continue home," she said quickly. "My family is waiting." Aduni stepped back. "Of course. But before you go, please tell your father that I will visit him tomorrow. There is something important I must speak to him about." Fozhead did not answer. She walked past him as quickly as she could without spilling the water, her mind racing. When she arrived home, Yakik was waiting in the courtyard, her arms crossed. "Who was that man?" Yakik demanded. "I do not know him, Ayumi." Fozhead answered truthfully. "Do not lie to me. I saw you speaking with him." He asked for Baba's name. "He said he'll visit tomorrow." Yakik's eyes narrowed dangerously. "For what purpose?" Foz had set down the water pot. He did not say, but Yakik already knew. She had seen enough marriage talks in her life to recognize the look in a man's eyes when he had found what he was looking for. That evening, after Adi returned home, Aduni arrived with 2 elders from Lagos. They sat respectfully in the receiving area while Foz had served them kola nuts and palm wine with shaking hands. Aduni's voice was clear and formal. "Baba, I have come with good intentions. I have seen your daughter, Fozhead, and after much thought, I wish to take her as my wife." The courtyard fell silent. Adi's face opened into a smile, the first true smile Fozhead had seen in months. "This is unexpected," he said, "but I am honored." He called Fozhead forward. "My daughter, this man has spoken with respect.
He wishes to marry you.
What do you say?" Fashad's throat felt tight. She looked at Aduni, at his kind eyes and patient face, and then at her father's hopeful expression. "I agree, Baba," she said softly. Adi clasped his hands together. "Then you have my blessing to move forward in the proper way." Behind the kitchen wall, Kiki was listening, her fingernails digging into her palms. She rushed to find Bimp and Yakik. "That traitor from Lagos," Kiki hissed. "He wants to marry Fozhead." Bimp's face twisted with anger. "Impossible. Men like that never look at her." Yakik's face became hard as stone. "So this is what she has been planning, pretending to be a humble fool while attracting rich men behind our backs." Simisola stood in the doorway, quiet and troubled, but she said nothing. That night, Yakik gathered her daughters in secret. "We cannot allow this marriage," she said with deadly calm. "If Fozhead leaves this house honored and rich, it will shame us forever. People will say our daughters were passed over for a second wife's child." Kiki leaned forward. "Then we must act before the marriage rites are completed." Bimp nodded slowly. "If she becomes damaged, no man will want her." Simola looked up sharply. "What are you planning?" Yakik ignored her. "We will handle it quietly. No one must know." Simisola stood up suddenly. "I want no part of this." She left the room, her heart pounding. Outside, under the same moon that had blessed Fashad's birth, Simisa made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, Yakik prepared breakfast as she always did. But this time, she added something extra to Fashad's porridge, crushed bitter herbs that would make her terribly sick. Fozhad, she called sweetly. Come and eat before you begin your work. Foz had entered carefully. Yakik's kindness was always suspicious. The food was placed before her, yam porridge seasoned perfectly. But as Foz had lifted the spoon to her mouth, Simisa suddenly burst into the room. Simisa cried, "The goat has escaped and is eating the neighbor's cassava." Yakik jumped up at once. That cursed animal. She rushed outside, with Kiki and Bimp following. Simisa looked at Fozhad urgently. "Do not eat that food."
What? Please trust me. Do not eat it.
Foz had stared at her stepsister in confusion, but something in Simisa's eyes made her put down the spoon. Simisa quickly switched the bowls, placing Yakik's portion in front of Fozhad and hiding the poison one. When Yakik returned, angry about the goat, she found Fozhad eating peacefully. Yakik's jaw tightened. "Why are you not sick yet?" she muttered under her breath. But Fozhad had heard, and for the first time, real fear entered her heart. 2 days later, Bimp planned a public shame. She stole money from Yakik's purse and hid it in Fashid's sleeping mat. Then, during market hours, when half the village was present, she began screaming, "Thief! Thief in our house!" People gathered at once. Babaday came running from the palm grove. "What happened?" he demanded. Bimp pointed dramatically at Fozhad. "She stole Yakik's money. I found it hidden in her room." Fashid's eyes widened in shock. "I did not." "Liar," Yakik shouted.
We found the money ourselves.
The crowd murmured. Stealing from family was one of the worst offenses in Yoruba culture. But then a small voice spoke from the crowd. "That is impossible." Everyone turned. It was Mama Yatund, the oldest woman in the village, known for her wisdom and sharp memory. "I saw Bimp near Fashid's sleeping area this morning," Mama Yatund said calmly. "I thought nothing of it at the time, but now she looks straight at Bimp. Perhaps you should explain what you were doing there." Bimp's face lost all color. Adi's voice became dangerously quiet. "Bimp, tell the truth." Under the weight of the whole village's stare, Bimp broke down. She confessed through tears, and the crowd's anger turned toward Yakik's family instead. Fozhad was cleared, but she knew the attacks would not stop. 3 nights before the final marriage ceremony, desperation made them reckless. Kiki and Bimp waited until Adi was fast asleep. They mixed palm oil with ground pepper to make a burning paste, something that would scar Fashid's face forever. "If she has no beauty," Yakik whispered, "she has nothing." They moved quietly through the compound, carrying their weapons like killers. But Simisola had been watching. She had seen the preparation, heard the whispered plans, and this time, she could not stay silent. She ran through the darkness to Fashid's room and shook her awake. "They are coming," Simisa gasped. "They want to burn your face.
You must hide now."
Fashid's blood turned cold. Where? The shrine. No one goes there at night. Foz had grabbed her wrapper and ran barefoot through the compound toward the small family shrine set aside for their ancestors. When Yakik and her daughters entered Fashid's room, they found only an empty mat. "Where is she?" Kiki hissed. They searched wildly, but Fozhad had disappeared into the sacred darkness, where even wickedness feared to go. By dawn, when they gave up searching, they found Simisa sitting calmly outside her room. "You warned her," Bimp accused. Simisa looked at her sister without fear.
"Yes."
Yakik raised her hand to strike, but Simisa caught her wrist. "Enough," Simisa said quietly. "What you are doing is evil, and I will not be part of it anymore." The next day, Ade arrived with his father, Chief Hideo, and a full group of elders.
But something was different this time.
They did not come only for marriage talks. They came with a revelation. Chief Hideo sat before Baba Adi and spoke with serious authority. "Adi, my friend," the chief began, "there is something you must know. My son did not meet your daughter by accident." Adi frowned. "I do not understand." "Your late wife, Aduni," the chief continued, "she was my cousin. Before she married you, our family lost contact with her. We only learned of her death 2 years ago." Adi's mouth fell open. Chief Hideo's voice softened. "When we heard she had left a daughter, we began searching. My son was sent to Abaddon to find her. When he saw Fozhad, he knew at once. She has her mother's face. Tears filled Adi's eyes. Aduni's family. We are your family now, Chief Adeo said firmly. And Fozhad is not only my son's chosen wife. She is my brother's daughter. She is returning to her mother's people. From the shadows, Yakik listened with growing horror. This was not just a marriage. This was a restoration. Fozhad was not some helpless girl being rescued. She was royalty taking back her place. And there was nothing they could do to stop it. Desperation drove Yakik to the forbidden. That night, she visited Baba Alo, the diviner who practiced the old dark arts that even the bravest feared. I need something powerful, she said, placing silver coins on his mat. Something to destroy beauty forever. Baba Alo's eyes shone in the lamplight. You wish to curse someone?
Yes.
Curses have a price, he warned. What you send out comes back 3 times over. I do not care, Yakik said coldly. I want her ruined. The diviner prepared a mixture, black soap mixed with words of power meant to take away beauty and replace it with disfigurement. Mix this with water, he instructed, and pour it on her while she sleeps. By morning, her beauty will be gone forever. Yakik paid him and returned home, with the cursed soap hidden in her wrapper. But what she did not know was that Simasola had followed her, and Simasola had heard everything. The wedding day arrived bright and beautiful. The whole village gathered at Chief Adeo's temporary compound in Ibadan. Fozhad was dressed in layers of deep blue Osso oak fabric, coral beads around her neck, and white chalk patterns drawn on her arms to honor the ancestors. She looked radiant, untouched by all the evil that had been planned against her. Aduni stood proudly beside her, his eyes full of love and protection. But in the crowd, Yakik appeared wearing a dark veil. In her hands, hidden under cloth, was a calabash holding the cursed mixture. Her plan was simple. During the dancing, when everyone was distracted, she would throw it across Fashid's face and disappear into the confusion. She pushed through the celebrating crowd, moving closer and closer to the bride. Just as she lifted the calabash, ready to strike, a hand grabbed her wrist firmly. It was Simasola. Ayami, Simasa said loudly enough for nearby people to hear. What are you doing? Yakik tried to pull away, but Simasola held tight. The calabash tipped, and the cursed mixture splashed not onto Fozhad, but backward onto Yakik herself. She screamed. The liquid burned like fire. Within seconds, dark marks began to spread across her face and hands. People gasped and stepped back. What is this? Someone shouted. The diviner's warning had been true. What you send out comes back 3 times over. Baba Alo himself appeared at the edge of the crowd, his face grim. She brought this upon herself, he announced. She tried to curse an innocent person, and the ancestors have judged her. Chief Adeo's guards seized Yakik, Kiki, and Bimp, who had been waiting nearby to help with the attack. Baba Adi stood frozen, staring at his first wife, with a mix of horror and heartbreak.
Why? He whispered.
She was just a child. Yakik had no answer. Her beauty, the very thing she had tried to steal, was now forever marred by her own wickedness. The village elders spoke together quickly. Their judgment was clear. Yakik and her daughters would be banished from the village. They would carry the mark of their shame wherever they went. Foz had watched from a distance, not with triumph, but with sadness. As they were led away, Simasola turned back and silently mouthed, I am sorry. Foz had nodded. Forgiveness, she had learned, was not about forgetting. It was about refusing to let evil keep working inside your own heart. The wedding continued after the judgment. The drums played, the women danced, and Fashade and Aduni were joined in marriage with the blessings of both families. But something unexpected happened afterward. Simola, who had been spared from punishment because of her testimony, asked to speak privately with Fozhadi. I do not expect forgiveness, Simasa said, tears streaming down her face. I stayed silent for too long. I am as guilty as they are. Foz had gently took her stepsister's hands. You saved my life 3 times. You chose what was right when it cost you everything. That is not guilt. That is courage. What will I do now? Simola asked. I have no family left. Chief Hideo, who had been listening, stepped forward. You have family. You protected my daughter when her own blood would not. You are welcome in her home. And so, Simola went to Lagos with them, where she later married a good man and found the peace she had helped Foz had keep safe. Babade visited his daughter, often in Lagos. On one such visit, as they sat under a shaded courtyard, he shared an old Yoruba proverb. Oniori, what does it mean, Baba? Foz had asked, though she felt she already knew. Adi smiled sadly. He who plans evil for another will meet it himself. Foz had nodded. She thought of Yakik's scarred face, of Kiki and Bimp's disgrace, of how their jealousy had eaten them up until there was nothing left. But there is another proverb, Adi added, his voice growing stronger. Patience is the father of character. He touched his daughter's cheek gently. You endured with patience. You did not become bitter. You did not seek revenge. And because of that, you did not just survive, you were restored. Foz had embraced her father, fully understanding now that her suffering had not been meaningless. It had refined her, prepared her, and in the end lifted her to a place she could never have imagined. Jealousy is a poison you drink while hoping someone else will die. Those who spend their lives trying to destroy another person's destiny will find their own future destroyed instead. But patience, honesty, and righteousness, even when they bring you suffering, will always be rewarded in ways you cannot predict. The beauty they tried to steal was never Fashid's face. It was her character. And that kind of beauty cannot be burned, cursed, or taken away. It only shines brighter in the darkness. If this story touched your heart, please show your support by liking and subscribing. We share African folktales that carry wisdom, culture, and lessons our ancestors knew we would need. Tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? And have you ever faced jealousy from those closest to you? Until then, remember, character is beauty. May your path be blessed, and may those who wish you harm find peace before their wickedness destroys them.
Goodbye.